You've had Wendy's nugs dipped in sauce, but have you had them covered in sauce? Wendy's new saucy nugs take the crispy and spicy nugs you love and turn them up to 11. Choose between flavors like buffalo or honey barbecue, garlic parm, or if you're a real heat seeker out there, you can try spicy ghost pepper only on Wendy's signature spicy nugs. Listen, I'm going to dare you to do it. I dare you. That's 7 delicious ways to try the nugs that you already love. Pick a flavor, grab some extra napkins, and then grab a few more napkins and prepare to nug like you've never nugged before. For a whole new way to nug, it's got to be Wendy's at participating U.S. Wendy's.
What up, Cal fans? We are back with the Golden Tweets. Tweet, tweet. This is, of course, our segment where we hear from you, our loyal listeners who we get to interact with. It's super fun for Rob and myself, Andy, two co-hosts, to get a chance to hear from our fans over email, through tweets, and, of course, as is our weekly tradition, we get to hear Rob try his best to imitate and or overperform against the original You've Got Mail guy.
You've Got Mail. Nah, that wasn't as good. Nah, I felt it. The moment it left. I was just like, there's something lingering. It's not the best one I've done. It's definitely.
I don't know. I'll have to re-listen. I actually thought it was pretty good.
Nah, I've had better takes. I need the bye week. I need a rest week too.
Take a week off.
Yeah.
Next time,
work on my craft.
I want to pull in the video.
Okay.
I want to pull in a YouTube video. I'm sure it exists. Original You've Got Mail.
I'm sure it is, yeah.
And we will do a side-by-side. And that will be, maybe we'll do it at the end of the year. And after all of these takes, we can say, did he nail it?
All right.
That'll be the segment.
It's the true.
It'll be like the field goal. Did you make the field goal with Vans on?
It's the true like man versus machine like battle.
100%.
Oh.
It's very true. Could that be the first AI and not even a person at all? What if it was just a computer the whole time?
It could be. We're all just living a simulation.
Yeah. Yikes. All right. Where's Will Smith at? Okay.
All right.
I digress.
Here we go.
Do we have an email today?
We got one email and we got 8 tweets.
All right. I want the email first.
That's what I figured. We're starting with the email. We got one from Douglas Cardamone. Okay. I might have butchered your last name, but Douglas. Is this the week you finally give Mendoza his flowers and unequivocally name him Player of the Week? You hinted at it last week, but the man deserves a clear proclamation of his incredible play this year. Go Bears, Doug.
It is.
It is. I named him my Player of the Game.
And I said you stole mine.
I did. I did steal yours. Yeah, I think unequivocally he deserved it. I believe he was the ACC quarterback of the week this week as well. Him and both Derek Morris both got named for Players of the Week. So, yeah, absolutely. Not just from myself, but clearly across all of the media voters in the ACC, Mendoza was the best quarterback.
I mean, I think the thing is, have we not given Nando his flowers? I think, yes. I know I certainly have built it up and said, yeah, he's deserving each week, and then I don't pick him. But that's my one question is, I think maybe after the NC State game, we did express certainly some doubts about pocket presence.
Yeah.
But, you know, I am pretty certain after the Auburn game, we were singing sweet praises about how good he looks and, you know, his comparison to Rodgers and Goff. And look, the guy can I honestly think sling it with the best of them. He's got a really good quick release. It reminds me a lot of watching Brock Purdy at times. He sits against a lot of pressure and stands in there like a champion. And I think we have somebody that you can really look at next year and say, you know, if this guy continues to take strides and steps, and let's just say we go 3-1 to close out the year, yeah, there's going to be a lot of hype and excitement around one of the better quarterbacks we've had in the last 8 years. And I think deservedly so. So I hope we give him his flowers enough, but in case we don't, consider this that episode. And hopefully as we go forward, there'll be more of this.
Yeah. The only thing I would say to that, or to add to that, is I think if we weren't on the Nando train, we would probably be looking at who are the backups and so on, and trying to formulate arguments for why the backup should play. But I think the conversations that we have regarding Nando is because we want him to succeed and because we think he is that next guy, we're more worried about where his next step of development could come from, so that he can take that next step, versus like knowing that he's not the guy and we don't understand why he's being played.
Lord knows I am willing to talk about the backup quarterback.
There's plenty of episodes you guys can go back over the last 4 or 5 years. So many names I could bring up right now, but I'm going to refuse for the sake of time.
Next question.
All right, we're moving on to the tweets from Sid. My dad said it best. We are the best 4-4 team in the country. Do you think this is actually a turning point in the season, or is OSU just really bad? I think the OSU defense was lacking due to injuries, ?
We're driven by the search for better. But when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. Leveraging over 140 million qualifications and preferences every day, Indeed's matching engine is constantly learning from your preferences, so the more you use Indeed, the better it gets. Join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Just go to Indeed.com/Blue Wire right now and support our show by saying that you heard about Indeed on this podcast. That's Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed.
This episode is brought to you by Iams Pet Food. When you choose Iams dry dog or cat food, you can see a difference in your pet with your own eyes. Healthy energy in 5 days, healthy digestion in 10 days, and healthy skin and coat in just 25 days. Satisfaction for you and them. Guaranteed or your money back. Feed Iams dry dog or cat food and see a visible difference. Visit iams.com/difference to learn more.
The best 4-4 team in the country. Rob, give me your thoughts while I look that up.
Probably. I mean, just even off of just point differential, right? There's no other 4-4 team in the country that has a point differential in those 4 losses at -9. I guarantee you everyone else is at least double digits. So, yeah, I think we are. And even, we in the previous pod, I told you the S&P Plus, right? We're 32nd in the country and we're 4-4. That makes no sense to me whatsoever.
32nd or 34th?
34th. 34th in the country and 4-4 makes no sense to me.
Okay, give me a second here.
But, as you look it up, I'll talk about the other one, which is this an actual turning point or is OSU just bad? I think it could be both. I might be eating my words in a couple of weeks, but it could be one of those things where this was the get right game for everyone. I think getting a lot of the young guys their playing time. We didn't even, Andy and I didn't even talk about the offensive line on that previous podcast, but like Frederick Williams getting his first start at right tackle and having a pretty solid game. They even let him lead the band in the fight song at the end after the game is over. So I think everyone knew like what type of performance he put up. So to have him there, with TJ out, I think only bodes well for the rest of the season if we can get him and we know what he can produce when he's put in spots.
Really good.
And Morrow also looked very good too. These guys could be taking that next step. It could be the get right game. And then with Tobias coming back, like in a couple. I mean, hopefully by the Wake Forest game, because they said he started practice last week. If Tobias comes back, that makes our offense very, very interesting. And yes, OSU's defense definitely had a lot of injuries.
Okay. Good answer.
Are you going back to the 4-4?
Yeah.
Were you looking that up? All right. What is your take on that?
We are not the best 4-4 team in the country.
Oh, who is the best in 4-4 team?
Probably USC. Yeah. Without a doubt, in my
There's
mind.
an argument to be made there, yeah.
Yeah.
Just out of principle, I'm not going to agree with you.
I mean,
purely
like
on principle.
if you look at point differential, it's not even close. Like SC scored 254 points and they've given up 174.
Well, that's total. That's total point differential, right? Across the 4 wins and the 4 games.
And then we know that they're also like one of the top 3 teams in regards to like margin of
loss,
if you will. I was also going to make the case. Like, Washington's had a really interesting year. They're 4-0 at home. They're 0-3 on the road, and they're at 186 in favor and 150 against.
Jedfish, baby.
There's a lot in. I mean, like Washington's 4-4, Michigan State's 4-4, SC's 4-4, Maryland's 4-4, and Rutgers is 4-4, and that's the Big Ten, which of course doesn't have 10 teams. And then you have Utah at 4-4 with a plus 50 or so point differential, total for the season. Yeah. And then Baylor has like 265 for and 207 against. They have 1-2 in a row. That's where Jake Spavital is. And West Virginia is also 4-4, but they
makes no sense.
Have pretty even splits. So it sounds like who knows?
It's either us or SC.
Going to look. Yeah, and then as far as like ACC interesting teams, I think the only other one I would look at would be North Carolina. As far as like point differential, I think we actually have the second best if you compare it to. It's really close. I think we're like plus 70 in favor, like for versus against, and I think SC is about plus 70.
Yeah, I mean that this Oregon State game definitely helped us a bunch.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's not the best measure. I will say it would be looking at margin of victory and loss, margin of loss. But overall, I'd say like in conference, your competition is North Carolina. Out of conference, your competition is like SC, and maybe if you wanted to throw Baylor in there, you could.
Sounds about right. All right, next one from Callie Scotty. Finally win. Hopefully more injured players return against Wake. Number 1, OSU is last in sacks per game nationally. Do we feel any better about the offensive line?
Well, clearly you do.
I do. I think these guys just needed a win.
I mean, I pointed this out to my dad, though. Like, if you looked at the size advantage, we keep talking about the size advantage. That size advantage that we had in the trenches was pretty significant. Like, you could actually visibly see it. It felt like when we played Miami and you looked at the Miami team, you're like, oh my gosh, these guys are humongous.
Yeah.
That's how we looked against Oregon State.
Pretty much. Yeah.
I just give me that against Wake Forest, and I'll throw flowers for that O-line.
Wake Forest is just, they're not good. But that's another question for another podcast.
Stanford
on a game-winning field goal. That also tells you how bad Stanford is.
Rob, I hope you predict another blowout, but until I see a W on the board, I'm not there yet mentally, my friend.
Ian, EPA on offense and defense has Stanford, North Carolina State, and FSU bunched in the same spot, and they're negative in both offense and defense.
And FSU?
Yeah.
Where's Wake Forest?
A little bit above, but not far away.
We lost to FSU, dude.
I know. I mean, we're saying it's a bad loss, but what I'm saying is that because we keep saying how bad FSU is, right? Stanford's just as bad, and Wake Forest is somewhere in that region too. But that's another discussion for another day. Move on, number 2. I feel like defensive starters should have been pulled earlier with a lead in hand. Thoughts? I think, Andy, you agree, right?
Definitely.
Yeah. We'll maybe find that out.
Why would we think that we could risk an injury there? I don't understand it. And I also loved, I'm not going to call it out, but like someone wrote a comment in it, right, for California. It was like, don't we think that Fernando should have played more of the game so he could get game experience? Like, nope, don't think so at all. Especially when you have Chandler Rogers there. You like, it's not like there's a huge drop off, and Nando doesn't need the experience. He's had plenty of experience this season.
The only argument I think you can make for number 2 is to keep those guys out there, is to exercise some mental demons. That's the only thing I can think of.
I mean, if you haven't done that with a 180 quarterback rating, I don't know.
No. I mean,
you're saying defensively.
Defensive, yeah. I'm saying for the defense, like just being out there with a lead that big and just being like, close it out. Like, because I also think that they were going for the shutout.
Go for the shutout. Yeah,
I think that's what it was. And I think if we had gotten the shutout, I think even with just giving up 7 points, it changes their mentality a little bit. But getting them that mental rep of being able to do that and showcasing that they're able to do that, coming on the backs of the last 4 games, I think definitely will help them for the last 4 games of the season.
Yeah, maybe they're saying show that you can close a game out and play a full football game. It's not like Oregon State can't score points.
And you don't want to let them back in.
38 points against Purdue, 39 points against Colorado State, 37 points against Nevada, 25 points against UNLV. I mean, a shutout there would have been
very nice. A shutout with 50 points would have been nice, but can't get everything that we want. And to be fair too, Oregon State did play 3 different quarterbacks against us.
Yep.
1 by need, or 2 by need, 1 by need and 1 by choice, but still 3 quarterbacks. All right, last one. Cal assistant coach of the game. Ooh, that's actually a good question. You
assistant coach of the game?
Yeah, if you can pick a position coach, do you got one? There's a couple of easy ones.
All right, let's hear your easy ones.
The easy one is Mike Safel, tight ends. The tight ends have played very well over the last couple of weeks, and their production has definitely taken the next step up. So he's probably an easy one to pick there. One of the defensive back coaches is also an easy one too.
Not like D-line.
Vic Soto, outside linebackers coach, is also a very good one too.
Yep.
I think those are all solid picks.
Special teams. We don't have a special teams.
Well, technically, special teams is Vic Soto. He has the label.
Okay, so Vic wins. Vic wins.
All right, next one from Driscoll McDoza. We sure came back strong after those 4 bye weeks. By rule, it should be illegal to include those 4 weeks, so counting them as bye weeks is the only reasonable solution. True or true?
I think that's 100% true.
100% true. Next one, Bears in 4. This is the type of win that can turn things around for the rest of the season. There are still some issues with the red zone offense. What would you like to see done differently in the red zone coming out of the bye week?
I wish we would be able to run the ball.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think that we, as we said on the podcast breaking down the Oregon State game, I think that there was a little bit of the pressure removed after the hook and ladder to Nando that allowed everybody to relax. But it did get to the point where it just feels like the playbook, to your point, Rob, when we don't have that much field to work with, for whatever reason, it kind of seems like we struggle there. But I want to shout out something that I learned in the Niners broadcast, which is if you look at the Niners last year, they led the NFL in red zone efficiency. And this year, with McCaffrey out, they're fine, like average. Having Jaden Ott out matters, especially somebody that has scored so many touchdowns in his career.
Yep.
And not being able to run the ball matters a lot in the red zone because, to your point, there isn't as much space for you to throw. So if you can run the ball in, I mean, your life is made so much easier. We should be able to utilize that 2 tight end set more and more in the red zone. And I think that's kind of the confusing piece is Endries is a mismatch, as are some of our other, like our tight ends are big, dude. Big tight ends. So I would really want us to see us like how can we build the JJ Arcega Whiteside end zone, red zone, toss it up, high point the ball type of play. That's really what I would want to see. Like truly take advantage of that size.
I mean, that all comes down to spacing, right? And I think the 2 things that'll help coming out of the bye is if Tobias is back and Jaden is also 100% healthy, which they said, I think Pete Thamel said he was close to 100%, but wasn't really 100%. If he gets to 100 over the bye week, I think that'll help. I think that'll help the spacing when we're in the red zone. Like a lot of the tight ends, right? You're not lining a tight end out wide to start with unless his name's Jimmy Graham. So you're kind of working with him either in line or in the slot. And there's not a lot of routes you can run him from that spot, right? You're probably maybe running some mesh concepts. Maybe you can get like a little pick play or a little whip route on it. But, the variety changes. And if you know that you're going to have to stop their run and you know that the tight end is going to pass over the middle, the easiest defensive play to make is to basically sit everyone in the box and not force anyone outside. Now, when you get a guy and our wide receivers don't really have the physical traits as of right now to beat guys one-on-one, on a fade route. So that's why I think when you get a guy like Tobias in and you line him out wide, not the short side of the field, but the wide side. And if you let him go on a fade route, that's going to clear out either a corner or a safety. You might have to come over the top to help him on that coverage because he's just a physical mismatch to most corners in college football. That way, that lessens the load on the box. You might have some linebackers shift towards him a little bit too, just to give him a little bit more cover on the off chance he's cutting back inside. And that way you have a little bit more spacing throughout the end zone and in the red zone. But as of right now, everything's too tight. And that's kind of what I saw coming out of the Oregon State game was granted, their defense has a lot of injuries and it's a lot of guys with not experience playing. But guys like Jordan King, who has the size, guys like Trevor Rogers, who have the speed and the size, were definitely taking advantage of that. And then that allowed them to get space underneath for Endries, for Nazia, for Mikey Matthews. And that's the big thing is that those guys operate in that underneath space. We just haven't had guys to be able to stretch the defense to give them the space to operate. So that's probably what I'm looking for coming out of the bye week and seeing if some of those deep threat guys can help create some of that vertical stretch.
Here's a question I have for you, Rob.
Sure.
So what do you do when Dyches is back? Because it seems like Endries has really come alive when Dyches has been out.
Well, he's eating up all the targets.
Yeah.
That's a good headache to have. Either you run a 2 tight end set with the 2 of them, or Dyches spells Endries, so you give Endries a bit more rest. Or I think if you're in the red zone, you run a 2 tight end set with both of them, and you probably maybe have Dyches run as a slot receiver and not as a inline tight end.
Yeah, I think you put Dyches out the slot. Is Mason Starling still hurt?
I believe so.
Because that's a big end zone.
Yeah, he's a huge end zone target. Yeah. So we'll see. There's a couple of injuries that hopefully we get back in the next week and a half. Moving on. David sends us a question. I took my 9-year-old nephew to the game. He's a fan now and thinks the Bears are very, very good. His words. Over under on the number of games before he realizes the Bears aren't as good as he thinks.
Over under. Dude, I think there's a chance for the rest of this season that it might take until next year.
Yeah. There's a high chance.
I don't know. If you're factoring a bowl game, the Bears are very, very good.
Well,
So
the question is so I think the secondary question to that, or for his scenario, is it games that he attends or is it games overall? Because if it's games he attends, then I think definitely this question won't be answered until next year. But if he's watching all the games, maybe the SMU games, so like 4 games in.
4 games in plus bowl game. Yeah.
Yeah.
Should take the SMU game and the bowl game to break one's spirit would be my
4.5. 4.5. Vegas line for David's nephew, realizing the Bears aren't good, 4.5.
Nice.
But hopefully he only experiences wins. Next one from Oso de Oro. I probably butchered that badly. Can we exhibit the same confidence and swagger against the rest of our ACC opponents, especially during a close game in the fourth quarter?
Also de oro.
Butchered that even more than I did.
No, I was just trying to make fun of your pronunciation.
You made it worse. I'm at least attempting to read it because I'm reading it on the screen.
Oh my gosh. Well, it's Oso's bear. De oro is of gold.
So golden bear.
So, I've already forgotten the question. One more time, please.
So can we exhibit the same confidence and swagger against the rest of our ACC opponents, especially during a close game in the fourth quarter? I mean, for me, I think yes, because that's my understanding without any inside information of why we kept the defense in that late in that game. I think it's to get that confidence swagger that, yeah, you guys have the ability to shut people out. You guys have the ability to play a full game and potentially not give up a score or any like means of letting a team back into the game. And I think they needed that experience after a rough 4-game stretch.
I remember in the stadium, there was one point where I think my dad was like, have they gotten a first down? I was like, yeah, they've gotten one. I looked up, and I was like, but even with that, I think they've had like 20 yards. And it was like 17 yards passing and 3 yards rushing. Or no, maybe it was the opposite. I don't think they were passing at all. I mean, but yeah, it was nuts. Like there was like 20 to maybe 25 yards of offense and in half. So hopefully they're carrying a ton of confidence into Wake Forest. We just have to see it on the cross-country trip. If you get that performance at Wake Forest on Friday, you come at home for Syracuse, and then you line up the big game. That team will be playing with a tremendous amount of confidence. And again, the cross-country travel's over at that point. So all you got are 2 home games, and then you just got a nice little, as Rob says, a nice little hop and a skip over to Dallas.
Not that far. It's still closer than Atlanta. It's still closer than Winston-Salem. It's still closer than wherever else we've flown this year.
No, you're not wrong. Yeah, I agree. I think that you can, but you have to see it against an ACC opponent. The NC State game was such a big game to lose because you still haven't cracked that proverbial glass ceiling. As low as that thing may be, you still are people are saying, oh, you haven't even gotten your conference win yet, and the new conference and all that. I think you just have to crack that, and once you do, then you can carry as much confidence, because then you really start to build that narrative. You say, oh yeah, we just got super unlucky. We just had back to back, as unlucky as you can get, and now we're back, and now we know who we are, and I think like you have the right leaders, and like with Teddy Buchanan, Kade Ulawe, Fernando, Nando on offense, maybe Endries as well. You like have and Jaden, you have these guys that can really lead that confidence and believe it and get buy-in. So I absolutely think that if Wake Forest ends up becoming a 27-10, there's no reason why we can't light the rest of our schedule on fire.
True. All right, we got two more. First one from Doc Seuss 84. Was this offensive explosion a result of the offense finally executing to their potential, Oregon State just being terrible, or a little bit of both? You got something?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's part of me says, do you remember like we would have those games in the Bo Baldwin era where we'd like break through and everyone would be like, where is this? Is this the Toyota Tercel offense? And like, where has this been?
We
and
did
then
it
we would
against
just go back.
We did against Oregon State. We went up there with Chase and then we dropped 33 on them, remember?
Yes, exactly. I'm scared of a flash in the pan, but I'm cautiously optimistic. The offense to me has been at this point where it could break through, and for whatever reason, whether it was, penalties or just maybe pocket presence, maybe O-line play, taking too many sacks, game awareness, where it's played itself out of a position to win. We didn't do that. Like, we had one false start and the whole stadium groaned. Everybody in the stadium groaned. Like, you could hear it.
And then we cleaned it right back up.
And I think hopefully it's not a flash in the pan.
I would agree. Last question from Juan Cho says, can someone speak to the economic situation of the program and the stadium renovation debt? I attended today's game and I couldn't help but think of our finances given the stadium looked half empty despite E40 baubles.
First of all, if you're going to give away bobbleheads, it better not be 5,000. 5,000. I mean, that's not going to make any dent in a 65,000 capacity stadium. So I'm just going to say 5,000.
Well, I mean, recorded attendance was 30,000. And 5,000 bobbleheads, I think, might have enticed people to come early, but I don't think that did.
It did not.
It was a cool bobblehead, though.
It did not. The funny thing is, the stadium's so funny because it's like half full. Yeah, the student section's like, again, 50 people at the beginning of the game.
Sure.
Small adjustment on my end. And then you have like the two sections that are tarped off. The visitor section, which I thought Oregon State had good fan base show, but then you have QQ, which looked unbelievably empty besides some of the guys that we know. And then RR and some of those are just really sparse-ish. And then especially when you get to sort of the corners are really rough. But then when you get to the alumni side, packed. And a lot of that is because of the, I forgot what they called those, but those licenses that people bought into like 50 years for those seats. And at the end of the day, like the alumni,
club, the field club, all that, all the amenities.
Yeah, more going on there. And you're in the shade. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, when it comes to football finances, and Rob, I'll let you speak to this, but I'm just going to say, like, at the high level, with the big hope that people have for Rich Lyons is that he, above anybody else, and again, I will say, I think Carol Christ did an excellent job. She doesn't get enough credit for that. But I think that where we really went wrong was like the Mike Williams era was particularly tough. And it seemed like we almost tried to get away from this idea that like the revenue for Cal starts with and ends with football and basketball, but really starts with and ends with football. And I think we got away from that. And so the big hope for Rich Lyons is that he, above anybody else, understands that. But Rob, I don't know if you want to speak to more of like the economic side or go into that. I'd be curious to get your thoughts.
Well, I mean, I was actually talking with Nam and Peter about this today, so it's kind of funny. But as we were alluding to like some of the other stuff in the previous podcast about like how much this ACC move is going to benefit us, it's in that same mold. Like we're not going to get the financial data for this ACC move and where we're lacking in budget, where we spent more than we expected to, like, all of that data, we're not going to know until the fiscal year's up. And then the fiscal year data comes up or is published. And that's usually at least a year and a half out from the start of the fiscal year. Like, we don't get that. I think we're usually a year and a half behind in terms of the fiscal data that is published. So we're not going to know that for a while. But look, like, it's just reading between the lines, right? Like, we're not getting a full share of the ACC media thing. It's like, I think, Andy, correct me if I'm wrong, if you remember this off the top of your head, but I believe the money that we're getting from the ACC as a partial is lower than the amount that we would have gotten in the Pac-12. If the same,
without a doubt.
Yeah. So because of that,
37 million all in Pac-12, 20 million all in ACC, or 2025 all million.
Yeah. So we're already in a gap there. And then on top of that, it's a lot more travel costs involved for every single team, not just for a single sport. So all of that added in, plus there's the added alpha within the next year and a half, the house settlement, and the extra 20 million that each program basically needs to procure somehow to be able to pay the players. It's not looking good financially. So, like, you need your revenue sports to produce money and profit. And so that's the big thing, is I don't know where that profit is coming from, if we've seen a profit in any particular place. And once again, we're not going to be able to get our hands on that data for at least another year. So it's a great question to ask. It's just, I don't know how much data or like answers I can give because it's not available to us.
Well said. I agree. More to come, and we could cover that at the end of the year.
Yeah. I believe there's one more question that we just got. Anthony Barant, or actually two more, sorry. Two more. Anthony Barant tweets at us, why are injuries so secretive? Going into the year, I thought we would have Merriweather and Grays. I know they got injured, but we don't really hear much of updates about their injuries. Andy, you want to take this one?
I mean, it's just a Wilcox thing. Like, it's all preference, and he views it as, clearly, in my opinion, and this is just my opinion, that he views it as gamesmanship, in the sense that not giving away that information to the team or to his opponents helps not give away an advantage. And I think he's not wrong. I think Kyle Shanahan, the Niners, is way more transparent, and he's not wrong. I think the NFL is a little bit more regulated.
Well, that's because of sports betting too.
Yes, than college football. I don't know if for all those fantasy football people that used to play fantasy football, there used to be what was called a probable designation. Yep. The NFL got rid of that, and now it's just questionable or doubtful and out. And then what happened where there was like recently there was a designation by a particular player that was either like late. Anyways, it's a whole big thing. So I just think there's a little bit more there. But yeah, in college football, like I truly just think like Wilcox sees it as it's just like one of those things. Like some coaches, like Tedford, when I worked with the team, like we were ruthless about anybody watching practice. And then Sonny Dykes came in and said, everybody watch practice. Who cares? And for his credit, Wilcox has been pretty open about that. Like spring practices, come on by. Like Tedford was not that way. Like I had a job at practice to find people that were in the stands that didn't have credentials. And if they were in the stands, we went up there and we were like, who the hell are you? And if you didn't have a good answer for that, we kicked you out. And if you were up on Tightwad Hill, I'd have to like alert my boss, who would go up and kick people off Tightwad Hill. Because you never know. Like he just thought like teams would try to scout the practice. And I mean, after seeing the whole Harbaugh thing, it's not like he was wrong.
Yeah.
It was like pretty well placed. But at the end of the day, the whole thing is just really, it's just a decision by Wilcox. And it is what it is. Like I don't really get all that mad at it, because if I were in his position, again, Rob, you say it all the time, like he's trying to find the little advantages, the little things he can build confidence with his team with. I just think like he's a competitor at the end of the day. And if that helps them, helps the other or forces the other team to have to game plan for one more thing or to occupy X amount of more space in their preparation, then it's probably worth it.
Yeah, I mean, the two things I'll add to that, which I think is perfectly said, is one, it doesn't, like, him answering those questions doesn't really help anyone except satiate our curiosity, like our want to know. That's part one. And part two is unless like they're mandated by like the sport to say it, which is kind of what the NFL does or even the NBA does, right? Just for sports betting purposes, like you need the transparency. It's personal injury stuff, so that's kind of why Wilcox also just kind of leaves it at, upper body, lower body. Like it's not his place to like say or tell people like that why you were hurt. Like the flip side to that is like when we found out, was it 20? What year was Laird's last year? Was that 2018 or was that 2019?
Could not tell you off the top of my head.
But I remember at Pro Day for Patrick Laird, he was talking about how Chase was hurt and he basically couldn't throw past 10 yards. Oh, that's 2018. Yeah, that's 2018. We had no idea. we had no idea Chase couldn't throw past 10 yards. And then Patrick Laird just brings it up casually at his Pro Day, and he's like, yeah, he battled through it, and he carried us through some tough games. So, like, I think that's one of the things. It's just an advantage, and it forces teams to account for it and not try and use that as a weakness against us. All right, last one, Andy, from Alex, who was wearing his Pop-Tart suit at the game this week, by the way. It was absolutely amazing. Why does it feel like we're just following a script that was written in preseason? Instead of driving the narrative, it's like CFB Chat GPT already spat out what's going to happen despite everything else.
Well, what does that mean is coming next?
What does it mean? That we just followed like 6-6?
Well, let me see.
Like mediocres? Are you asking Chat GPT?
I was going to, but you know what? I'm not logged in, so let me just ask Gemini. How many wins will Cal football have at the end of this season? They are currently 4-4.
What do we got?
Okay.
Big money.
Definitive answer.
No. That sounds about right.
I cannot provide a definitive answer. I can offer some insights based on their current performance in upcoming games. Of now, they have a 4-4 record. Their remaining schedule includes a mix of challenging and winnable games. If they capitalize on their favorable matchups and perform well in tough games, they could potentially finish the season with a respectable record. However, it's important to note that college football is unpredictable and unexpected factors can significantly impact the outcomes. Let me just say, okay, thank you for that, but I want to know the number.
That sounds like a sports column I probably would write in like middle school.
It really doesn't want, but
like I'm hedging my bets, right? I'm like, yes, they could win, but they're also playing tough opponents, so they could lose.
Dude, they can't do this because of betting. I'm like, just give me a number.
They can't.
Okay. All right. Let me try one more thing.
I'm gonna toss this to Andy because we're getting a feedback, but Andy, you can close us out.
Wait, what? You're giving it to me? All right. I'll close this out. All right, everybody. Thanks for hanging in there as we had our technical difficulties on my side to close out the episode. This has been the California Golden Bearcast special edition, Golden Tweets. If you found this podcast, you know where to find us. Please, we appreciate your listenership. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell your kids. We found out that we got a new 9-year-old fan, so let's keep it going. And we look forward to chatting with you all in preparation for Wake Forest next week. And as always, go Bears.
He was all right, dude. I lost because the
131
Steelers,
yards?
Yeah. I lost because the Steelers picked off Daniel Jones in the final minute and a half.
No way.
Yep. I was up 101 to 1 or 99 or something like that. 99 point something, and I lost 103 to 101 because of that interception.
Wow. Dude, I would be furious.
Because I had Najee on my team.
Lost because the Niners decided to stop guarding CeeDee Lamb. And that was so fun.